Have you ever had the feeling that something is wrong with you, even when there is no clear problem? As if there were a constant tension in the background of your body, as if rest were never complete, as if your mind never fully switched off. And then a quiet thought appears. Maybe I am broken. Maybe something is wrong with me. Maybe I am different from other people, because it seems like everyone else can relax. Except you. Everyone else can slow down. Except you. Everyone else seems to handle life better. Except you. But here is something important. Something that can change the way you understand all of this. You are not broken. Your nervous system is alert. And there is a reason for that. A reason that has nothing to do with weakness, nothing to do with lack of control, nothing to do with incapacity. It has to do with protection. Maybe you are sitting right now. Maybe you are at home. Maybe the environment is quiet. Nothing urgent happening. Nothing dangerous. Nothing out of place. And even so, there is a light tension in your body. Your shoulders do not fully relax. Your breathing does not deepen. Your mind keeps observing, as if it were waiting for something, as if something could happen at any moment. Even when everything is fine, this feeling is more common than it seems. Many people live like this, functioning, completing tasks, answering messages, following routines, but inside, always a little alert, always a little prepared, always a little vigilant. It is not intense anxiety. It is not constant fear. It is something more subtle, a silent readiness, a light vigilance, a feeling that the body never fully switches off. And when this lasts for a long time, something begins to happen. Fatigue appears. A strange fatigue. A fatigue that does not come from physical effort. A fatigue that does not come from hard work. A fatigue that seems to exist all the time, even on calm days, even after resting, even when nothing happened. And this creates confusion, because rationally, everything seems normal. Life goes on. Responsibilities are fulfilled. Problems are solved. But the body remains tense. The mind remains alert. The system keeps functioning as if something still needs to be monitored. And then doubt appears. What is wrong with me? Why can't I relax? Why does my body always feel switched on? Why doesn't my mind rest? These questions are common, and many people spend years trying to answer them. Some believe they need to be stronger. Others believe they need to try harder. Others believe there is something broken inside them. But maybe the answer is simpler. Maybe nothing is broken. Maybe there is a system that learned to protect, because the nervous system does not work like a machine that turns on and off when we want. It works like a guardian, a silent guardian, a guardian that observes, that monitors, that prepares, that tries to keep you safe, even when you do not notice, even when you do not ask, even when it is not necessary. This guardian learns from experience if, at some point in life, it was necessary to stay alert. It learns. If, at some point, it was necessary to anticipate problems, it learns. If, at some point, it was necessary to protect yourself, it learns. And what is learned remains. Even when the situation changes, even when the danger disappears, even when life becomes more peaceful, the system keeps working, like an alarm that remains armed, like a radar that keeps spinning, like an engine that never fully shuts down. This does not mean something is wrong. It means something worked. It worked so well that the body decided to continue, because from the perspective of the nervous system, it is safer to stay prepared than to relax too soon. It is safer to maintain vigilance than to take risks. It is safer to anticipate than to react too late. This logic protects, but it also exhausts, because living in alert mode requires energy. It requires attention. It requires constant effort. Even when you do not notice, even when it seems like you are resting, There is work happening, invisible work, silent work, continuous work, and this work wears you down, little by little, day after day, situation after situation, until the body begins to show signs, subtle signs, quiet signs, signs that are often ignored, difficulty relaxing, a feeling of tension, constant fatigue, irritability, the feeling of always being tired, even without a clear reason. Maybe you recognize this. Maybe you wake up tired, even after sleeping. Maybe you finish the day exhausted, even without having done much. Maybe you feel an internal pressure, a background tension, a feeling of alertness, without knowing exactly why. This does not mean you are broken. It means your system is active, too active, for too long, without enough pauses, without enough signals of safety. Because safety, for the body, is not an idea. It is a feeling, an experience, an internal state. And when the system does not feel safe, it remains alert, even in safe environments, even in calm moments, even when there is no danger. This can happen in very subtle ways, without drama, without crisis, without extreme events, just constant vigilance, a silent readiness, a feeling that something needs to be watched, monitored, controlled. And when this state becomes continuous, it turns into a pattern that feels normal, a pattern that feels like part of your personality. I am like this. I am anxious. I am tense. I can never relax. But maybe that is not who you are. Maybe it is simply the state your system learned to live in, a state of alert, a state of protection, a state of survival. Because survival requires attention, it requires vigilance, it requires preparation. And if, at some point in life, it was necessary to survive, the body learns. It learns quickly, it learns deeply, it learns automatically, and it keeps repeating, even when it is no longer necessary. This is not failure, this is adaptation. An adaptation that worked, an adaptation that protected, an adaptation that kept you safe, but that now may be exhausting you. Because what protects for a while can become heavy when it lasts too long. Imagine a guard who works day and night, without rest, without breaks, without shift changes. At first, he functions well. He stays alert. He observes everything. He reacts quickly, but over time, he gets tired. He becomes exhausted. He begins to lose energy. He begins to make mistakes. Not because he is incompetent, but because he never stopped. The nervous system works in a similar way. It was designed to alternate: alert, rest, activation, recovery, movement, pause. But when alertness becomes constant, recovery disappears and fatigue appears. A silent fatigue, an accumulated fatigue, a fatigue that does not disappear easily. And this can create another feeling, the feeling of always being prepared, always attentive, always vigilant, as if the body were waiting for something, even when nothing is happening. Maybe you have felt this, sitting in silence, at home, on the couch, in bed, and even so, your body does not relax. There is a light tension, a subtle restlessness, an energy that does not fully dissolve, as if the system were ready to act, ready to respond, ready to react, even when it is not necessary. This does not mean something is wrong. It means the system is working efficiently, working protectively, working automatically, but perhaps working in excess. And when something works in excess, it begins to exhaust, not because it is bad, but because there is no pause, no rest, no recovery. And then the feeling of burnout appears, a silent burnout, an emotional burnout, a mental burnout, a physical burnout. That does not disappear simply with rest, because physical rest does not resolve what happens when the system remains alert. The body may be still, but the system may be active, monitoring, observing, preparing, waiting. This consumes energy, a lot of energy, And that is why some people feel tired all the time. Not because they did too much, but because the system never stopped, never shut down, never fully relaxed. And this changes the way we understand the problem. Maybe you are not broken. Maybe you are tired. Tired of being alert, tired of being prepared, tired of being vigilant for too long. And when this understanding appears, something changes. Guilt decreases, pressure decreases, self-criticism decreases. Because you realize something important. You did not fail. You adapted. You are not weak. You protected yourself. You are not broken. Your system is alert. And maybe the most important question is not, what is wrong with me? Maybe it is another question. How long has my nervous system been protecting me without ever having the chance to rest? And when you begin to look at it this way, a new understanding appears. Maybe the problem was never your strength, never your discipline, never your capacity. Maybe the problem has been the invisible effort you have been making for a long time. A silent effort, a constant effort, an effort no one sees, not even you. Because this effort happens inside, in the way you observe the environment, in the way you prepare yourself, in the way you anticipate, in the way you try to keep everything under control, even when you do not notice, even when you do not think about it. There is a part of the system that keeps working, always alert, always monitoring, always evaluating, always prepared. And this work consumes energy, more energy than it seems, more energy than we imagine. Because the body does not spend energy only when it moves, it also spends energy when it remains in vigilance, when it remains attentive, when it remains in readiness. Imagine someone holding a light weight. At first, it feels easy, almost unnoticeable. But if that person keeps holding that weight for hours, fatigue appears, not because the weight is heavy, but because it was never released. Constant tension works the same way. It is not the size of the problem that exhausts. It is the duration of vigilance. It is the time the system remains active, without pauses, without rest, without full recovery. And this explains why some people feel exhausted even on calm days, even when nothing serious happened, even when the body did not make physical effort, because the effort was internal, mental, emotional, silent. Maybe you lived through periods when you had to stay alert all the time, periods when you had to predict problems, periods when you had to take care of everything, periods when you had to avoid mistakes, periods when you had to be strong. And at that time, it made sense. Vigilance helped, attention protected, readiness created safety. But the system does not know when to stop on its own. It keeps doing what it learned to do: protect, observe, prepare, anticipate, even when the scenario has changed, even when life has become more stable, even when danger no longer exists. The body remains prepared, like a god who stays awake even after everyone has gone to sleep, like a light that remains on even after the sun has risen, like an engine that stays running even when the car is parked. This is not failure. This is habit, a deep habit, a bodily habit, a habit formed over time. And habits do not disappear suddenly. They fade slowly. They transform gradually. They reorganize little by little, especially when they were created to protect. Because protection is the nervous system's priority. Always has been. Always will be. The body prefers to exaggerate protection rather than take risks. It prefers to maintain vigilance rather than relax too soon. It prefers to anticipate rather than be surprised. This logic saved lives throughout history. But in the modern world, it often remains active when it is no longer necessary. And this creates a curious feeling. The feeling of always being prepared, always attentive, always waiting, even when there is no threat, even when there is no urgency, even when there is no problem. Maybe you recognize this. The feeling of not being able to relax completely, of not being able to switch off, of not being able to let go, as if the body were always ready to act, even when it does not need to. This can create frustration. It can create guilt. It can create self-criticism because it feels like you should be able to relax, that you should be able to rest, that you should be able to slow down, but something inside you remains active. And this can make you believe there is a defect, that there is a failure, that something is broken. But maybe there is no defect. Maybe there is protection. Maybe your system is doing exactly what it was trained to do: keep you safe, avoid risk, anticipate danger, even when danger no longer exists. And when you understand this, something changes. The way you look at yourself changes. The way you interpret your fatigue changes. The way you understand your tension changes. Because you realize something important. Your body is not fighting against you. It is trying to take care of you. It is trying to protect you. It is trying to keep you safe, even when it is not necessary. This changes your relationship with your body. It changes the way you see your mind. It changes the way you deal with your fatigue. Because when you believe you are broken, despair appears. But when you understand you are protected, understanding appears. And understanding creates space. Space to breathe. Space to relax. Space to reduce pressure. Because self-criticism consumes energy. Guilt consumes energy. The feeling of failure consumes energy. But understanding releases energy. Acceptance releases energy. Clarity releases energy. And little by little, the system begins to recognize something new. That not every silence is dangerous. That not every pause requires vigilance. That not every moment of rest requires preparation. That safety exists. That stability exists. That there is space to let go, not all at once, not immediately, but gradually, like someone who slowly learns that they no longer need to run, that they can walk, that they can stop, that they can rest, because the body learns through experience. It learns by repeating. It learns by observing. It learns by feeling. Just as it learned to live in alert mode, it can also learn to relax. Just as it learned to survive, it can also learn to live. This does not happen overnight, but it begins with a simple shift, a shift in perception, a shift in perspective, a shift in interpretation. Maybe you're not broken. Maybe you are tired. Maybe you are overloaded. Maybe you have been alert for too long. And when this idea begins to make sense, something inside the body begins to change. Tension softens a little. Breathing deepens a little. Muscles release a little. Rhythm slows a little. Not because someone forced it, but because the system finally received a different message. A message of safety. A message of permission. A message of rest. And this brings a new feeling, a feeling of relief, a feeling of understanding, a feeling of hope. Because if the system learned to live in alert mode, it can also learn to live in calm. If the system learned to survive, it can also learn to trust. And maybe this is the most important reflection. Maybe you were never broken. Maybe you were simply alert for too long. And now a quiet question appears. A question that may stay with you long after this video ends. If your nervous system spent so long trying to protect you, what happens when it finally realizes that you are safe?